Hey everyone, welcome back to Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we're going to sit back, relax, take that midweek break, talk about some of the fun things going on in the world of Linux, open source, habanero peppers, apples, what else we got this week? CAD programs. Stick around for that. I'm sure some are like, people are getting mad on the internet about something tangentially related to that business. I'm Vince Stone. That's Joe Bryant. We're talking to everybody live in chat. We're playing around with YouTube. Come check it out. YouTube.com/at LWDW. Look at that.
Yay!
There you go. Yeah.
Ben remembers now.
Piece of cake tattooed on the bottom of my feet. Easy to remember. Just look down. Take a look. There it is. I probably didn't do that. Maybe I did. Who knows? So, what's up? What's new? Man, I have been playing a lot of video games. Recording a lot of video games. Not really playing. I was talking about that in the live show. Which is a lot, requires more responsibility, because if you don't catch yourself, you'll start playing the video games instead of recording the footage that you need for the project. So you end up like, I just spent 45 minutes playing God of War. I shouldn't have done that. That put me behind, which has been very interesting. But I ran into a curling situation. Everybody knows curl, right?
Yes.
Curl. It's the thing.
Linux curling situation.
Yeah. Curl, man. The thing that doesn't ship with Ubuntu 25.
Yeah.
By default. Why curl is not included? This is a mystery the ancients will have to figure out. But I ran into a curl situation on the Interfacing Linux web server, and it said timeout. And I'm like, what's going on? So this was me trying to reactivate one of the paid plugins that I have running on the Interfacing Linux thing, and I had plugged in the key, got a timeout error, and I go through the troubleshooting checklist. I'm checking Cloudflare, DNS, anything logged. And I finally got down to the point of just SSHing into the box and trying to hit, the API requested, and it was getting timed out. And I talked to the host, and I'm like, hey, do you got any of this blocked? And then, they're like, no, I don't think so. And then I talked to the plugin developers, and I'm like, could you get anything blocked on your end? They're just going back and forth, using me as the middle guy, trying to play. I'm like, man, why do we got to do this, everybody? Why can't we just get together, get in the same room, so we can see each other, be around each other, and I can get you both in a headlock and not let go until you fix my problem? Because we're on day 4 of this right now.
Oh boy.
For no reason. For no reason. I'm looking forward to getting that fixed. Stay tuned tomorrow if you listen to Weekly Daily Wednesdays and Thursdays. Got a brand new video. It's been up for patrons on Interfacing Linux and YouTube subscribers on Interfacing Linux YouTube channel. But all about making my own Steam Deck, something that I've been wanting to do since the Steam Deck was announced. I'm like, handhelds are neat. Don't want one.
Yay.
Don't. I wanted the Steam internals.
You want a box.
In a mini PC, yeah, so I could put it in the living room and have my casual gaming machine in there, and not have to get a Steam Deck and put it on a shelf, because we don't have entertainment centers anymore, right?
Yeah.
So something I could just put in there. So I built my own using Steam OS, not using nothing against Bazite or the other alternatives, and I'm going to walk you through how to do that, because Valve a couple of weeks ago, they came out and they said, hey, go try it out and let us know how it works. And that's what I did. So I'll take you on that adventure along with a whole written guide on Interfacing Linux. I think that video comes out tomorrow at 8. So when you wake up, give it a look if you so dare.
Yeah, it's going to be nice. Your little mini Steam machine.
It is. And that's what it's going to be doing. It was a PC I recently reviewed that I was like, this is an incredible value PC, and the hardware basically just lines up. I mean, it's a perfect analog for Steam Deck, comparison wise. I'm like, do this and do this. And I'll show you some things that I kind of found out on the way. Not everything was perfectly smooth sailing, because it is a different hardware from a Steam Deck, but it'll get you pointed in the right direction about what it can and cannot get away with. Might be doing some more with it in the future. How about you, Jill? Another week. So let's see. What do you get? About 65 hours of Genshin Impact in? Maybe about 12 of Infinity Nikki.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a ton of the Steam Next Fest demos to go through, but I haven't been through them yet. So I need to do that. And but I've been sick, so I've just been trying to recover and playing games. And excuse my scratchy throat.
Let's go ahead and hop into our first bit of news this week. Apple last week came out with something Linux.
Yeah,
this way comes.
Yeah, this is really big news. So now Mac OS has its own version of the Windows subsystem for Linux. Apple announced an initial build and release of a new open source containerization framework and shell tool called Container at their Worldwide Developers Conference 2025 last week. The Container CLI tool is designed to create and run Linux containers as lightweight virtual machines directly on Mac OS. And it's written in Swift and optimized for Apple Silicon machines and for the upcoming Mac OS 26 Tahoe, which is currently in developer beta. Apple's container tool gives each container an isolated, lightweight Linux VM for strict security and privacy, unlike shared kernel container tools. And it uses a new Swift-based init system called vminitd, which sets up environments, assigns IP addresses, and mounts file systems. And you can already run Linux containers on macOS, of course, using tools like Docker, Podman, OrbStack, and VirtualBox. But, now you got one that's default, just like the Windows subsystem for Linux on Windows. And you also can install, of course, Asahi Linux bare metal on Apple ARM Silicon computers and many Linux distros like Ubuntu on your Intel Macs. I got plenty of old Intel Macs that I have Ubuntu and Debian on. But having, a built-in default virtual machine environment for Linux development on macOS is actually a sign that Apple really understands the importance of Linux containers in modern software development.
I just think somebody at Apple remembered that they made PCs, Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
They were busy earlier, might have been last week or earlier this week, discontinuing all Intel Macs.
Yeah.
Yeah, drop support for all of that. And they're like, wait a minute, that's right, we do make PCs. We should probably do something. You messed up, Apple. You called it container. You didn't call it iContainer.
Yeah, it's nothing fancy. No. iContainer, that's good.
Could have called it iContainer. You didn't do it. It's Apple, so you should have called it bushel, iBushels.
Yeah.
You didn't do it. I'm just not feeling the love here. Long as something goes terribly wrong, I'll never have to deal with any of this. But like I said, with WSL or anything like that, it's good for the people that need it. There you go. And it's open source.
Yeah.
Also, there you go, which is nice to see. Now, KiCad. You ever use KiCad?
Yeah, I have. Not as much as you have, though.
I use it way too much. KiCad is one of those applications that I'll crack open when I got an idea, when I'm thinking about doing something, when I'm doing any type of board design. I grew up professionally using Eagle way back in the day. That was my first experience with Windows NT. That was like my machine. I was like, no one's allowed to touch this. And, when you're just prototyping, like doing board layout or just like looking up, I'll look up values because I got a bunch of stuff loaded in there. It's just easier to do. And they made a announcement earlier this week because people have been bugging them. They're like, hey, man, when are you going to get on this Wayland train? You need to get on this. And they're like, yeah, all right. Well, let's talk about it. So, again, love this application. But in the notes for their Wayland support, because, hey, let's be honest. What did we talk about? Well, last week before, Fedora and Ubuntu, they're getting rid of X11, right? Now, you're still going to have X Wayland laying around. And Gnome's like, we're not going to be supporting X anymore. So it's probably a good time because people got questions, right? And they're like, ooh, and they're a little bit scared about it. And I went through everything, read through all their notes, and, they got some issues and some problems. We're like, maybe some things are going to change, maybe some things are not. If you don't know, if you've never used it, KiCad runs right now, but it is kind of a wee busted. in some areas like window management, cursor pointer warping, input device, CPU, GPU spikes. There's like some stuff in here, clipboard issues, just stability issues. And this is according to them, And yeah, I know the pointer warping was like recently added. That protocol was so in a little while that'll be coming out on like rolling distributions. So the big takeaway from this that everybody should know is don't send them bug reports regarding Wayland. They don't care. That's where they're at. They said, we make this software for Windows, Linux, and Mac. Linux users are like all 7 of you. We're not going to dedicate a lot of time to dealing with this. Wayland mostly works. So, if that's how you got to roll with it, they will continue testing in hopes that, the Wayland, I've talked about Wayland death by 1,000 cuts. There's a bunch of things that, edge cases that were like, need to get sorted. And that does. They do recommend, Jill. They do recommend. They're
what?
Well, if you need professional use, Jill.
Yeah.
if you're a professional user, well, you better be using. And listen, this is not me having a fun time just because I use XFCE. Me is like, hey, XFCE is the best thing in the world, period. They straight up just recommend X11 based desktop environment with XFCE with X11 followed by KDE or Mate or any, traditional desktop environments. So
nice.
They went ahead and put that out there because productivity comes first with an application like this. If you're using KiCad professionally, you need it to work. You need the absolute best case scenario. I'm sitting here. I have no allegiance to Wayland, X11, X386. Like whatever works is what I'm using. DaVinci Resolve and this setup and the way things are tied up. That's all. You know what, Jill? You're on Wayland.
Yeah, I'm on Wayland right now. On XFCE.
You're on Wayland right now on GNOME.
On GNOME.
On GNOME on an ARM machine.
On Ven's ARM machine. That's where I'm coming to you live on LWDW through his studio.
Desktop users, like I said, you really shouldn't have to worry about what display server you're using or what protocol you're using, as long as it just works. So for the time being, if you want maximum stability, like that's where they're going to be targeting, and that's where your bug fixes are going to come and go. And that just speaks to the state of like where things are at. There's a bunch of edge cases with Wayland that still need to get sorted that hopefully they do. Maybe player 3. I saw somebody brought up an interesting analogy earlier this week. They were talking about, you remember CVS, right? For code repository.
Oh,
control.
yeah.
And we're like, we knew CVS was on its way out, man. And like, what's going to replace CVS? And like Subversion showed up, and Subversion didn't have a way to import that, but like everybody just agreed that like Subversion was going to become the next thing. What ended up happening out of nowhere? Git. And we just all moved over to Git for no reason.
To Git, yeah.
So never count out like weird player 3. That's why I'm saying like, don't put all your penguin eggs in one basket, like with like Wayland. I don't want to be stuck in another situation where there's only just the one, because we just got done doing that with X3, X86, Xorg. So yeah, there you go. WFCE for 20 plus years. Man, XFCE committed the code for their Wayland compositor. Like that's what I'm gonna get.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, like I'm here to play ball and play with not the latest and greatest, but the most stablest and bestest, which is a different system requirement. Like the idea of my desktop crashing, never going to happen. I'm never running anything where no, not going to happen. So there we go. Jill's going to do this entire next article in Dutch.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the big news that has been reported in the Linux community, that the Danish government is switching to Linux like the German government did last year. So, but the news about switching to Linux was retracted by the Politiken newspaper and computerworld.dk. The OMG Ubuntu blog states, since this article was published, the original reporting at Politiken and computerworld.dk have been amended to retract the claim that Windows will be replacing be replaced by Linux, citing a misunderstanding with the ministry. However, Office 365 is being replaced with LibreOffice. So yes, the great news is that the Danish government is taking a step forward to open source by switching half of the employees at Denmark's Ministry of Digital Affairs from Microsoft Office 365 to the awesome LibreOffice. Just like Germany's switch to open source, the move is part of Denmark's tech strategy, prioritizing digital sovereignty and reducing dependency on big tech companies. And the ministry aims to have all employees using open source software by autumn, but may revert to Microsoft products if issues arise. So 2 big Danish municipalities, Aarhus and Copenhagen, have already switched to LibreOffice for its financial benefits and concerns over US-based tech. Also, the EU is currently considering increasing open source adoption by governments across member states due to cloud and AI computing gaps. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Linux is part of Denmark's and the EU's future, because some of the countries have already, converted over to Linux, like Germany. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that in the next few years.
Oof. It costs so much money to retrain. It does.
Yeah, that is one of
terrifying.
The biggest things.
How many people in the audience do you know? Probably not you yourself, but you definitely have somebody in your meet circle that knows how to use an application. You take them outside of that application, they're lost, man.
Yeah.
There used to be, I knew some people that like a long time ago, like Notes, like you get them outside of Notes, lost. Done. They're like, what is this thing I'm on? I'm like, that's the computer running the application. Like, make it go back full screen. I don't want to deal with this. And that was a real problem. So, yeah, this is very much like in the Office ecosystem. More, nowadays might not be such a big deal, but it depends on just what type of compatibility issues they're going to run into, with a, what is it, ODX format for, it's been a while. It's been a while for, since I've used a desktop office. Yeah. We need to go back to Star Office though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Star Office was great, actually.
It worked, and it worked on Spark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. That was
the ODS format. Okay.
ODF.
It's been a long time. Like I pay Google money every month to use their Office thingy just because it's like way too. And I've looked into like doing like Nextcloud type stuff. I hasn't gotten around to it. Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. We'll see how it works out. This is not the first time this has been attempted.
Oh yeah,
by government.
Germany went back and forth. Remember,
and it won't be the last. So it's all happened before, and it will all happen again. Hopefully, it'll stick, man. Hopefully, it'll stick.
Yeah, absolutely. This looks exciting.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Microsoft?
I suppose everyone watching this video knows who Microsoft is.
Maybe. I don't know how they're going to try to fight back against this because, every time a municipality or, some big company like we're making the switch, that's often, we see it as the end users because we're not on the inside of this. You're not thinking like a sales weasel. That can often be code for, we want a big discount on our renewal. So they come out and they'll say a public thing like this, and then Microsoft sales weasels show up and like, amazingly, we can give you 80% off for the next renewal cycle. And they're like, oh, that's wonderful. That's great of you to do. Hopefully that's not going to be the case, and Microsoft's not going to continue doing the Microsoft thing. Now, another company that starts with M, everybody, is Mozilla. Mm-hmm. And earlier this week, I came across something that I gotta say, man, it needs making. Killed by Mozilla. You're familiar with a Killed by Google page by now. Now we have killedbymozilla.com. We start way down here at the bottom. Some of these are like deep cuts too. Like you're like, what? And even I was like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, I remember that. So, kind of a reach, but there's a couple of big reminders on this list. And we're going all the way back to like 1999, people, 1998, way back in the day. And you start scrolling through this, And you see names that you're like, that looks kind of familiar. Maybe it is. And you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Then you like look into it and you're like, oh, I remember hearing something about it, you know. And then, of course, you run into things like, they did that. You know, I constantly forget. Yeah, Mozilla had an IRC channel.
IRC, they sure did. Yeah,
they absolutely did. And Pockets was like one of the big ones very lately that a lot of people have been upset about, and it's been making the rounds lately. And I'm like, yeah, people upset about that. You know, Fake Spot's gone, Mozilla Social. Fake Spot was a big one, you know, with a review system spotting that. Orbit's gone. Yeah,
Firefox Send, which is one of my favorites.
Right. Firefox OS, you know. Yeah.
I still have my phone with Firefox OS on it.
Oh,
their first official one.
So this,
and it's orange.
It's orange. Yeah. I remember seeing the Firefox. I never hate on these things. I genuinely don't, but I have enough experience to go, you know, I want stuff like that to work. And I remember when it came out, I'm like, well, that's going to fail pretty hard. And it did, because it obviously was. But I appreciate you got to take those chances, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You never know. It could have caught on. It could have been a thing, you know, like Nokia with like their Linux phone. I forget the name of it. But, you know, the little slidey one that everyone wanted for a minute.
Yeah.
That was dope. And, you know, things like that. Little moonshot projects, big for it. But this leads up to an article written by Stephen J. Von Nichols.
Yeah.
Not dime, not quarter, not half cent, not pence, nickels. And it's got some people riled up. Why? Because he said Firefox is dead to me.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one who's fed up. I don't know if he said it with such a gusto. Maybe I added that in there. Parent company Mozilla is not my fave either. Comma fam. I added the last bit, but you know, if you're going to use fave, you might as well sell the rest of it, right? Put fam in there. So this little piece over the register, Firefox is dead to me. It's basically a checklist of things that we've covered on this show over the years, man. You know, and like there's some legitimate issues like selling users data. Like that was a thing, shoving AI into it, killing off, you know, features that people genuinely found useful, multiple rounds of layoffs, and, you know, something I've been up, down, left, and sideways on, relying on Google to exist. You know, that is not just me saying that. That is Firefox testifying on Google's behalf in court, going, that would be really bad for us if you split Google up and they couldn't give us money to be included in search anymore. So, yeah, these, you know, this is just a list of stuff, and there's other stuff. Everybody's got their own thing. They led to Firefox usage, you know, being in the single digits, which hurts a little, you know, when you think about it. Because we saw Firefox basically start from nothing, and it grew up and it took over. And it was like the one that you went out of your way to download, because the average user, even back then, they weren't going to go out of their way. You're going to use whatever was in front of them. What was in front of them at the time? IE6, man. IE6. And that was a moment, because IE6 was and like continued to be so bad. You saw what Microsoft dominance, and, you know, just became intolerable to the point where people would download another web browser. Like that was step one. Like, don't use IE6, download. And Microsoft did everything to like try to funnel you back into it, and people like, man, that's not going to happen. But, you know, the end of the conclusion, can Firefox save itself? Could it? Yes, 100%. Will it? Probably not. Probably not, because, you know, the solution to this is none of these external services. You know, we're seeing Firefox getting heavy. They're putting AI and all that. And like, they're not, how many times have I said, you got to focus on your core product? You know, this doesn't require a master's in CEOing here. This is going, okay, you know, you want the product. And all the people who made Firefox awesome and super cool, they've left, man. Like, get that out of your head. Like, you know, you're like, no, they're like, no, those people went on to do cooler, better stuff at places where they can do cool, better stuff. They know. I'm not saying there's not great people left at Mozilla Foundation and Microsoft, because there are, but you know what I'm saying. Can they turn the ship around? I don't think there's a drive to, Jill.
Yeah.
I don't think there does. And anyone's like, no, we need to course correct. What are they worried about? They're worried about losing that Google check.
Yeah.
They're not worried about like, what about this mountain of like issues? They're worried about that? Maybe not so much. I wish they were. I think a lot of us do. I use Firefox.
Yeah,
I do. I got Firefox installed on my Android device. I got Firefox installed. I'm doing what I can here, man. I'm not interested in like their weird paid services, mainly because they're nothing I'd want. And on top of that, as we just discussed, there's a good chance it's going to get canceled at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
This is it's so hard. I completely understand Stephen J. Von Nichols' frustration because I'm frustrated too. I'm not happy with some of the decisions of late, like Mozilla deprecating Pocket. I used to use Pocket all the time. So, and like I said earlier, Firefox Send, that was brilliant to be able to send large files without paying for it. So that was a really nice service for the users. And but I find myself still needing to support the most well-known open source web browser, Firefox. In fact, I'm using it right now for my show notes. And there are some great web browser alternatives, based on Firefox that I use and love, including the Garuda Linux's FireDragon, Florp, SeaMonkey, and WaterFox browsers. One reason I like SeaMonkey because it still uses Zool, which Firefox canceled a while ago. And also there's GNOME Web, which was originally known as Epiphany, and that is based on the WebKit GTK rendering engine. That has come a long way. And don't forget KDE's Conqueror web browser based on KHTML. So we have alternatives out there if you're not happy with the original flagship Firefox.
I think we got a bunch of them out there. They're hanging out doing their things. But I think what a lot of people are worried about, and rightfully so, is like, people don't want, because everything's Chromium. It's Chromium based. You look at Chrome Beta, you look at Brave, you look at Vivaldi. This is all Chromium offshoots. It's basically the same thing under the hood. Firefox at least was doing their own thing. What am I excited about? Let's talk about what I'm excited about. You should be excited about it too. We're talking about Lady Bird. Brought it up on this show. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, people. This is our only hope right here. This is like, really. Kick them some coin. I ain't rich, but I peeled off a few because like, this is your plan B, people. When or if Mozilla just, maybe continues to exist, but maybe just like goes full corpo on you and you're like, no, we need somewhere to go. This is going to be your open source one. Hopefully that will be able to spend at least a couple of decades before, turning to the dark side. There you go. And it has come so far. I built it a couple of months ago and I was really impressed by like where it's at right now. I'm like, this is borderline usable right now. And I think one of the big attractions we're seeing with Firefox, even a little bit of a resurgence, if you stay very close in your tech sphere, you've heard your friends like, I switched back to Firefox. Why? Because Manifest v3, the ad blocking in Chrome is not so great anymore. It's not what it used to be. But you don't have that problem on Firefox right now. Unfortunately, that is such a small blip because you're dealing with the type of people that run ad blockers in their web browser, which, again, in our sphere, like, well, that's everybody. And I'm like, getting somebody doing it, the average person has no idea. They have no idea. So they're never going to, like, that's not going to be a driving force for them. It's great for us. But for like mass adoption, I think Lady Bird is our future, not Firefox.
Yeah.
I'll continue to use Firefox. I will continue to support it. But I don't think you can right that ship at this point. I want to be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. This is my opinion, man. Somebody's going to be like, hold me to it. Like, how dare you? And I'm like, I don't do it. You can't do the cheerleading. Cheerleaders do more damage to Linux and the open source ecosystem than I could ever hope to accomplish for the rest of my days. So, best of luck to everybody.
Yeah.
Download what you need to, run what you want to run, and mind your business. I think is the big one, right? Don't run. I'm like, don't run. Like, you'll never hear me giving anybody static for like running. It's not even Internet Explorer anymore, is it? What is Edge?
Yeah, it's called Edge. And Edge is actually honestly quite good. It's fast.
And it's Chrome, though. You know,
Yeah,
it's Chrome.
it's Chrome
It's another
based,
one, right?
so yeah. And there's plenty of, I mean, me and Ven both love Vivaldi, and that's Chrome based.
Love is a strong word for Vivaldi.
Okay.
It is.
Well, I do love Vivaldi.
Vivaldi's tolerable once you cut off all the crap. See, this is one of the reasons I'm really drawn to Ladybird. Ladybird, like from
yeah.
origin, it's being a browser. And I'm like, stick with what you know. You know, when I open a browser, I want it to browse web pages. Nothing else, man. And Vivaldi's got a bunch of extra whooshy nonsense in it. And they're like, hey, I can do all this other stuff. And I'm like, that's great. Shut up. You know, I immediately have to go in and like, how do I disable that? That just got cut on, right?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I completely understand. I generally like my my web browsers bare bones. But I do like SeaMonkey, for instance, because they have mail and web page creation inside, kind of like the old classic Firefox used to be back in the day before it was split up.
Netscape Communicator.
Yeah, and Netscape, yeah. So there is a place for that, and of course you can download one of the other browsers that has that integrated, like Vivaldi.
And you know, Firefox itself is probably not going away. I think one of the, you know, there's like all the as you said, there's multiple branches of Firefox. Yeah. And, you know, we don't want to pay respects to the dead while they're still living. So nobody take that out of context of what we're saying. But like, I don't think it's not a brave original idea to be like Mozilla and Firefox is in trouble, because they are. We'll just have to see how it plays out. All right. On that uplifting, exciting bit of news. If you want to keep track of what we do, you're listening to the show, there's a video version. We got a YouTube channel. What is it, Jill? I don't feel like picking my foot up right now.
At LWDW.
All right. LWDW on YouTube. Video version of the show, you can watch us stream live, at least for like this month, probably next month. I haven't had anything like anger me about YouTube yet. Like I said, I don't have favorites. I use what works. And the second something biting, this is why options is also important. Maybe we can stream on a KiCad or whatever it is and be all messed up and try to like shove two of us in like the vertical. That would be horrible. Yeah, it'd be crazy. But if you like old school, most of you are listening to the podcast, maybe you're running across like, I would like to listen to this in the podcast. I don't. Head over to linuxgamecast.com. You can find all the podcast information. That's Linux Gamecast, Linux Gaming, and other elite hotness taking place on Saturday nights. But if you scroll down a bit, there's LWDW. We're everywhere. Yay. Everywhere.
Yes.
Where podcasts are available. And you can just download it right from the site. Take my money. Hosted it, self-hosting this stuff for 15 years. I don't know how many petaluta-floppa-bytes paid for, but we've done it, and no tracking. Just a bunch of bad Venn math of like, I wonder how many people kind of download. Let's divide. And what was the last size of the podcast? And we do that. Maybe somewhere there. Hey, if you want to help us out, you can do that. Again, while you're over at Linux Gamecast, or just click below the video. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/Linux Gamecast, which will get you access to just a gang of stuff. I was talking about the uncut version of the show, which is the pre-show, even before we go live. Me and Jill are like, hey, Jill. And, you know, sometimes Jill is there and she'll be like, hey, Ven, because it's weird when she's not there. And I'm like, hey, Jill. But we do that, have a little talk, then we go live, and you know, then we do the show. Then we have the after show, a little post show. You know, there's usually like 45 minutes of bonus material that is not in the podcast proper. But if you don't know about Patreon, you get a custom RSS feed that you can plug into your podcast client, Otron 9000, and just get it. You don't have to worry about it, which is great. Now I make the video version available to you as well. I think that's pretty much it. We got wish list. We got merch store.linuxgamecast.com. What's going on here? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Come check out Interfacing Linux. Go like and subscribe all over it. Do it. I dare you. And I'm doing a bunch of cool stuff over there. Really fascinating things I got in the works right now. I still need to figure out whether or not I can come up with a project that's not just a stupid YouTube video for those fiber optic HDMI cables. Everything I've thought of right now is just a stupid YouTube video. And I'm I'm not going to be able to sell that. Nobody's going to buy that. Nobody's going to be like, you're just doing this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not, what am I trying to say? I don't want to make one to be like, hey, look, this is really neat. Go buy it through my affiliate. Like, I don't have any desire to do that. There's got to be an educational component to it other than like, hey, these are neat. Go buy them. So we'll see. LinuxGamecast.com. Come check us out. TM2 Crew. We're going to be back. We just wrapped up Tuesdays. We're doing that here on YouTube as well at TM2 Crew, TM2C. We actually got the right name instead of LWDW.
Yeah.
If you don't know, if you're looking for a group of people to hang out with and get together, tickle your brains and tickle your reflexes. When I tell you it's a racing game, air quotes around it, you might bounce off. Even if you're not into racing, I like to say a physics puzzle platformer that changes every week. It's an older game that runs on basically anything, and we grab the latest maps every Tuesday. I put them together. I got a server set up, Raspberry Pi server running right back here in the rack. You don't have to worry about creating logins or anything like that. Come play with us. It's a great time, and it's more about trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B. You really got to use your thinks, and you got to use your old reflexes and get them working. And, the server's all official and stuff, so your time is listed on the official letterboards for the world, so you can compete against everybody, or you could do it asynchronously. I love because we get together on Tuesdays, we do new maps, and on Fridays we get together for rounds, which is like a points match followed by an RPG. We flip a switch in the server, it turns it into this adventure thing that you're welcome to come play with as well. It's a bit more advanced, so you probably don't want to play on that in your first day. But I like coming in on Friday, and people will pop in on the server during the week. They don't have time to make it on Thursdays, but since the server's always up, you can set times. And when you log in, it's like, oh, somebody logged in, beat my time. Or like, oh, they got rounded. Good on them. It is fun and great to do. Thursdays, which is tomorrow, twitch.tv/Linux Gamecast. Sandy and Jordan are doing BG3, sometimes empty, sometimes full, sometimes power, sometimes no power. You never know with those wild and crazy kids, but they'll be up to that. All right, that's going to do it. It is 32.4 degrees here in the studio with 61% relative humidity, and traffic is light on the 9. So we need to bring that bouncy music up and roll some credits.
Thank you to our advisor, Artherin, and to our executive producers on Patreon, Barbrandt, Scott, Atomic, 1234, our Chicago Kicks Mules level, Glorious Egg Roll, Basil, Empty, our Sea Monsters, John, Dirty Dean, Dementor, System T, our Death Notes, Oil of Hope, Zeno, Nova, Chad, Romeo, Turnover, Martin, our Chairlings, Gamatron, Monica, -9, Jason. Too many people for me to name at one time, at one sitting.
And me.
Or read in time.
Steve. All right.
Yeah.
Have fun, beautiful people. Plenty of week to get up to fun stuff. If you get any questions or anything, just leave them in the comments on the YouTube video or under the Patreon video, which will be there. Commercial free.
Yeah.
Quality.